Welcome to the American Folklife Center's 2024 Homegrown Concert Series. I'm Stephen Winnick, and for the past many years, we have done this concert series here at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., where we present the best in traditional music and dance from around the world. And this year, we're very happy to have Northern Resonance from Sweden, who perform traditional Scandinavian music and their own compositions on unusual instruments. And I'm looking forward to talking to them about that because every time we do a concert, we try to do an interview with the group to get some more insight into their music. And so I am here with members of Northern Resonance, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Jerker Hansers, but you can say JJ. That's much easier.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, JJ.
I'm Anna Ekborg Hansers.
And I'm Petrus Dillner.
All right. Well, thank you and welcome to our concert series. And you played a beautiful concert here in the Woodall Pavilion of the Library of Congress. And now we're going to talk a little bit about your music. So how does a Swedish person, a young person, encounter traditional music these days? How did you get, you learn about it and start to play music?
I guess we have all three pretty different.
Yeah, you can answer individually. Yeah.
So, but for me, I grew up in a music family. So my mom is a classical violinist, and my father is a classical educated viola player.
Yeah.
But then he not converted, but he's more of a traditional fiddler nowadays. So I have it both. So that's how I started from them.
And I have parents that are very interested in music. They play fiddle just for fun on amateur levels. So when I was a kid, they brought me along to a lot of folk and world music concerts, and there was a lot of folk music playing in the vinyl and CD players at home. So I grew up listening to it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really grow up in a music family at all. I'm from this small region in Sweden where the nyckelharp is found traditionally. So the school just started to teach it. Mm-hmm. And it looked strange, so I wanted to try it. And that's about 20 years ago now. So just got into it that way.
Interesting. So, I mean, that brings us to the question of education and what role the education system plays in people encountering music. So you mentioned that school was your first exposure to the nyckelharp.
Yeah.
Is that true for you guys as well, that you had some involvement of school in starting to play music?
No, not for me. I mean, as I said, my parents were really into music and started playing fiddle when they were adults. So both me and my brother were put in line to start playing the Suzuki fiddle, the Suzuki violin. I think I was 2 when they put me in queue to do that. So it was not by choice that I started playing. And I started playing when I was 5. But yeah, and then I continued. So it was once again my parents that decided that I should play.
Yeah, and for me it was through the Suzuki method as well. Mm-hmm. And I know that some people at my school as a kid could skip some parts of the standard lessons to go and practice for example, have a guitar lesson for 15 minutes per week. But I was one of those who didn't do that, but I had the lessons on the evenings at the musical school.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess we have pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you're playing when you're starting to get into traditional music, is it more common to just start on the regular violin before moving to Hardanger fiddle and viola da more and those instruments?
Yeah, I would say that in Sweden at least. So for me I started with a regular fiddle or a violin, and then when I was I 12 years old or something, my fiddle was crashed into small pieces and couldn't get fixed. So then from the insurance money, my parents had afford to buy one fiddle and one Hardanger fiddle. So that's why I started with the Hardanger fiddle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me it was the same as you said. I played the violin, both traditional and classical, and then when I was done with high school and wanted to spend more time in actually like building a career on playing music, I bought my first viola d'amore because I had teachers and role models that played that instrument.
Interesting. So let's talk about the viola d'amore for just a minute, because you mentioned in the concert that the version that's common in the Nordic countries isn't necessarily the classical model, and that it's sort of adapted for your music. So explain the instrument a little bit and the sympathetic strings. I know that's kind of a theme of your instrument, so I'll talk about it with each of you. But how does that affect the music and the playing?
So I have to admit that I have never actually played on a like traditional viola d'amore, because when I started playing, for me viola d'amore was this kind of viola d'amore that I have. But then people started writing reviews on the trio, and I was asked to be interviewed for a magazine for viola d'amore. And then they started writing that it had 7 strings and sympathetic strings, while mine has 5 strings. So I started looking into it a bit more, and the like traditional viola d'amore is a bit bigger, and the form of the instrument is a bit different. And I think it's more related to the viola da gamba, while mine are built in Sweden, and it's more like a 5-string fiddle. So it's a bit smaller, and mine are built so that it feels like playing a 5-string fiddle. But then it has the sympathetic strings that just sings along as well when you play.
Right. So for people who might not know, explain how that works, how the sympathetic strings operate.
Yes, so I have 5 strings that I play on, and then you tune the sympathetic strings. For example, one of them are tuned in A. So if I play on my A string, like open A, the sympathetic string sings along as well. So if you play in some keys, it's more like open, and when you play, the strings will sing along, and you tune them in a way that they will be able to sing along when you play in it. And if you tune the violin in a different tuning, then you also might tune the resonating string different, so they will sing along in that key. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. So, and you play the Hardanger fiddle, or Hardingfela, which has the same principle.
Yeah.
Are they historically related? Do you know whether those old viola d'amores became Hardanger fiddles, or if it's just a copy, or how that happened?
Yeah, I since I'm not Norwegian,
Right.
I don't know. So if a Norwegian person listen to this, they maybe have another look at it. But I think it's from the beginning. It's from the 17th century, so it's an old instrument, and the original was more of a Baroque instrument, like the shape of it and the angle of the neck. So it was a lot inspired from the classical music for sure, but it was played in a traditional way, like in a folk music way. So I think the only related thing between the viola d'amore and the Hardanger fiddle is that they are both from the classical music era. Kind of.
And there are in Sweden, there is historically also låtfiol.
Yeah.
Like there are different types of regular fiddles that has sympathetic strings, or with a more flat stable. So maybe with only 2 playing strings, or 4 playing strings, and then 2 resonating strings.
Yeah.
So there is history of those kind of instruments as well.
Of people sort of experimenting with the different possibilities
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
the strings. Yeah.
Yeah, and that låtfiol, which is like a tune fiddle, the direct translation is, I think it's more a regular fiddle that the people rebuilt to get the more rich sound.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll mention that in our collections at the American Folklife Center, we have a lot of Nordic music on both regular fiddles and Hardanger fiddles. So if you're ever interested, come and visit us, and we'll get you some archival recordings of people.
Yes, please.
So that'll be fun. But I also want to talk about the nyckelharpa, which is an instrument that I think most people who aren't Scandinavian don't even know much about. So
I know a lot of Swedish people don't.
yeah, that was actually my first question. Do most Swedish people on the street even know about the nyckelharpa?
I mean, I think people have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. A lot of people don't really know what it is and how it works, I think. But I mean, the folk music genre is quite small.
Yeah.
Like I think you talked about it as a subculture almost before. So it's not very common.
Yeah.
No.
So how does it work? Explain it to us.
It works. I mean, it's
Yeah, you can.
easier to show. I
Yeah.
think you have same thing like a violin that you play the strings with a bow, and these 4 top ones, and underneath you have 12 sympathetic strings tuned chromatically.
Mm-hmm.
And like Anna said, what like if I play, let's say this one sings along as
Yeah.
well, and you press this. It's called keys. And then if I press this one, the peg goes against the string, which becomes like the finger on a violin.
Yeah.
So just 3 rows, 1 for each strings. So it looks a lot worse than it
Then
is.
it sounds.
Than it sounds. Yeah. So I mean, it's I mean, when people look at it, it seems very complicated, but it's just mechanics,
Right.
really.
Right.
Quite
Some-
logical when you
some-
look into it.
Yeah, some clever people figured out another mechanical way
Yeah.
to play strings. Yeah.
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 So that's mostly regional in Sweden. Is that right? That it's
Yeah, it's my home county called Uppland, the southeast of Sweden. It's the only place in the world where it's found traditionally. You kind of stick to that area for some reason. But it's found all over the world, like especially after the folk music revival in the 70s and 80s, that just spread.
yeah.
So there's an American Nickel Harp Association, and there's a group in Tokyo, and there's builders all around Europe.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's found. We met a few players in Australia.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure some
well.
of the people in your audience have actually played nickelharpa. Some
Yeah,
of the
might
people
be,
that I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a few in this region as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, very cool.
So yeah.
So you have all these instruments with sympathetic strings. How did the idea come about to form a group that?
That's-
with
It's her fault.
Yeah, that's your fault.
No, but it was, as I said earlier, I bought my first viola d'amore, I think I was 18 or something. And then a couple of years later, I started studying at the Royal College of Music in Stockholm. And I had played the viola d'amore in different groups, but it was the first time that I ended up in a jam session with some nickelharpa players. And it was the first time that I actually played my resonating instrument with other resonating instruments. And I realized that it was a very cool atmosphere to be in with all the resonating strings. And then I started thinking like, there is a lot of fiddle groups in Sweden with like string trios.
Yeah.
Some of them have like Hardanger fiddle and regular fiddle. But then I started thinking like, okay, but I have never seen a combination of both nickelharpa, Hardanger fiddle, and the viola d'amore. So it would be pretty cool to see what happened if you do a string trio with only resonating instruments. So I kind of wrote it down on my like notes on my phone saying like dream trio. But then I wanted to wait some time because I really wanted it to like, I knew that I wanted these guys because they're amazing musicians, but I just wanted to sit a bit on the idea before I pitched it to them. Then I talked to JJ first, and JJ and Petrus has been playing together since they were younger. So he pitched it to Petrus, and yeah, here we are. Yeah.
Great. And what was it like? You know, your first session together playing. Did you immediately know it was going to work, or was it?
No.
No, I mean, it was super fun
Yeah.
for sure, but it's like, I think that we saw pretty early why there wasn't a trio with these instruments.
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's so many strings. I think it's 52 strings that we need to tune,
Yeah.
and they need to be like exact, the right tuning, because if they don't, it sounds horrible.
Really?
Yeah, it can be wonderful, but
Yeah.
it's so close to being like the inner circle of hell.
Yeah.
Really, it's yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But when we like fixed that, it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also trying to find, because it's also a hard setting when it's 3 instrument that's historically is like the lead instrument.
Right.
And then, of course, it's a very long tradition of playing 2 people, like with a second voice. But then when you add a third, you always need to find a role for everyone in the band, which has been a challenge, but a very fun challenge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed you plucking and strumming a little bit on instruments that is not usual to see that. So so I know that that must have been very conscious to come up with these arrangement strategies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So now that you've done it for a few years, do you feel like it's become more natural to arrange pieces for these 3 instruments?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Totally, yeah. I think, it's always easy to come up with the melody and the second voice or the second harmony, I think. And then I think the big work is to fix the third voice and to get that to work with the other melodies.
Yeah.
You have to be quick, like taking the one of the 2 easy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave the third one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you have to sort of complete the, you have to get the timing and you have to complete the chord, and there's a lot of things that you're trying to accomplish with that third.
Yeah. And I think we don't really think of it as like, oh, we go to this chord and then we go to C and then we move on to. We just like listen and like, does that sound nice? Does it feel natural to go there? Yeah. I mean, and if it sounds bad, we don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So we don't write it down, and we don't think in that like the Western classical like music theory.
Yeah.
Just listen to it.
Yeah.
And if it sounds good, then it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think because some tunes are more difficult on some of the instruments, so that's also, I would say, the reason why me and Anna has 2 instruments each. So when the tune is in a key that feels just weird, we can switch to the other. Especially me, because this one is in A, and then the other one is in C, so it's like two notes up.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to have another another tonal option to, on hand all the time. Yeah. So when you say that you don't write it down, does that mean that you're remembering it very precisely, your arrangements, or are you? Is there any improvisation going
Lots
on?
of terrible recordings on the phone.
Yeah.
A reminder, and you just remember it. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean, my head remembers it, but I can't actually. To be honest, I can't like go through arrangement like in words. I don't know which part we start with. It's like, okay, the tune, the arrangement start with this section, and then it's just muscle memory.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the concert you getting very locked in rhythmically, which is necessary to get to get it all going together. And it looked challenging, but you were great at it. It went beautifully. So so thanks for all that. So we've talked about arrangement a little, but of course a lot of your tunes are also compositions of your own. So how do you what's your approach to composing, and how do you see that in relation to the tradition, the folk tradition?
We're quite different, I think, when it comes to composing. I haven't composed so much, like it's the past few years that I started to write more music. And to be honest, it's mostly when I have like lack of inspiration. Like a lot of people write when they have like this great inspiration, as you talked about, like writing to a person or a place. But for me, it's usually like I'm changing the strings on my violin and I have to like play on them so they will like be in tune for the next time. And then you have to spend some time with your instrument. And then sometimes I just play around and come up with melodies. And then usually I think it's hard to like write a whole tune in one session. Like usually I record some short bits, and then I have them on my phone. I still have like 5 tunes that I have like the first couple of bars, and then probably when we get up back from here and I have to change strings again, I will sit down and continue. So that has been a bit like when I started coming with tunes to the trio. Sometimes Petrus was like, yeah, but what is the meaning of the tune? What is the story behind it? And I can be like, well,
Yeah, I'm a bit in the opposite.
yeah, usually like for me the song comes first, and then I can start thinking like, okay, I wrote this tune when I was living in this place, and like the story usually comes afterwards for me, like that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm more like something happens, or I meet someone, or I'm doing something and I write a tune. So I normally need some sort of direction, and it doesn't have to be big. It's like, yeah, I wrote this when I was happy. Then I have like, all right, happy, you know. and so it doesn't have to be like a big meaning of life, just like something.
Sure.
Yeah.
And JJ? Yeah.
It's different. I mean, for most of the time, it's like I have a small melody of maybe 2 or 3 bars in my head that I try to apply to my instrument, and then I just try to, like come forward with the melody. But it's for the most of the time I only write a part. And then when it comes to the second part, the B part, I got stuck, and then I just leave it, and then it can be in my phone for a half year or 1 year, and then when I think, okay, we need more music, I can go into my phone and listen to that melody that I wrote then, and then it's easier for me. But I think, but I think the most of the tunes that we play in Northern Resonance that I have wrote is tunes that has come to me very easily. And I don't know why, and sometimes I don't know if I'm stealing a melody from another musician.
Could happen, yeah.
Yeah, and then when we arrange the music together, that's often the like moment where it feels natural and good.
Yeah.
In a way.
Sure. So you mentioned the possibility of stealing from other musicians.
Yeah.
Who are some of the groups that you listen to as, you know, as string music or just as inspiration for your own music?
I don't know, my Spotify playlist has everything.
Yeah.
Really, it's everything from old archive recordings where you barely hear the music because of all the.
Yeah,
You know.
we're familiar with that.
Yeah, and in the other end, I listen to like lately a lot of Rage Against the Machines. It's like it's a broad spectrum. So
Yeah.
I think it all gets like melted down in a pot, you know, and something comes out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me it's pretty much everything. I grew up listening to different nickel harpa players. That was big in like the 60s, 70s, compared to my fellow students in preschool. But
Yeah, I think when it comes to inspiration for this setting, it's been a lot, and that is a lot through you, like Nordic Fiddlers Block, and also bands as The Fretless. I also think Lena Johnson, an amazing fiddle player from Sweden, is a very good inspiration when it comes to composing tunes. So that is more like looking into great fiddle, like string musicians, I think.
Yeah, and for me, it's since I grew up in this music family, I have like friends to my mom and dad has been playing around me since I was a kid. So I would mostly say people around my family. But of course, like Vasen or as Anna said, Nordic Fiddlers Block.
Yeah.
And also I listen to like the most thing that I listen to is like pop music. And I think, to be honest, I think the folk music and the pop music is pretty similar in a way, because it's often a very simple melody that you can sing or you can play it on one instrument,
Yeah.
and you remember it very well. So I think a lot of like our music is in a bit inspired from pop music in
That
that
makes sense,
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like hooks
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
that
I mean,
have to
if
come
you're-
together to make
If you're
a tune.
lucky, it
Yeah.
sticks.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, right. No, that makes sense. So, yeah, so we talked about your recording an album, which was nominated for the Swedish Grammy. So, how was it received by other folk people in Sweden? Were people surprised by what you were doing at first?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No,
Or what
I
do you say?
no,
No,
I
really.
no, with the first album I don't really remember, but it felt like it was very well like received, that people liked it, and a lot of like, I think that the beautiful thing about the Swedish folk music scene is that it's quite a small scene, so that a lot of people and colleagues were like pushing for the band and like rooting for it, and yeah, I think it's been very well received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm,
I
well-
mean the first album was really like more of the traditional way of tunes. We had
Yeah.
more trad music on that one, and of course our own original music too. But this second album is more modern
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. The kind of exploration maybe
Yeah.
of the setting
Yeah.
in an experimental way, maybe not
Yeah.
experimental, but a
No.
little less trad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that the arrangements are more solid on the second album, maybe, because it's more like thought through in one way, because we know the setting better now than
Right.
we did back then. But
Yeah.
that is also two very different qualities that I really like with the two different albums. That the
Yeah.
first one is more like finding our way, so it's a bit of a different sound, but still like the core is still North Iceland.
yeah. But I would say that the second album is more. People have been more surprised by that because it's
Yeah.
very like we had our studio engineer that recorded the album was basically a fourth member of the band during the recording.
Oh,
so
that's great. Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
was more produced way of making the album,
Yeah.
which was more surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
he's a genius,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, having an actual producer in there who's directing things can be really, really helpful.
Mm.
sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
So
And what was helpful was that he was very honest. Like we played the tunes three times, and he was like, "I think you can do better. Come on."
Yeah.
It's like can be a bit better. You know? And it's like
very nice.
like yeah, it can be a bit better, and then you did it again, and it's like it became better. So I think that was helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of the production, I mean, and on the first album, was it mostly just you playing and being recorded, and then on the second there was more intervention by the producer? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I think because on the first album we had 2 days in the studio,
including
Oh
the
yeah,
mix.
so that's
including
not,
the mixing.
That's
Yeah.
not long. Yeah.
So it was basically I think every tune was like 2, maximum 3 takes, maybe. While the second album we had almost a whole week, and then we had a chance because I think it's, as a band, for me it feels important to be able to deliver your best both on a CD and in front of an audience, but it's 2 very different things.
Right.
So we did a choice to do like overdubs on some things, because maybe some pits might be nicer to do on the nyckelharpa, so you don't hear everything in between with the keys.
Yeah.
You maybe want to clean it up a bit on a recording because you have the possibility to do it. But the arrangements are the same, but I would say a bit more like produced, like overdubs and maybe taking from different takes, just to give like the best experience on a CD when we have the opportunity to do that.
Right. Right,
So
sure.
we decided to do it that direction this time.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's like other genres do it all the time, so why
Yeah.
not folk music?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you mentioned now that you've been touring in the U.S. for a little bit, and you've gone all over the world. How does it feel to bring this music to audiences that are completely unaware of it or don't know much about it?
It's super fun.
Yeah, it's so nice. And it's so appreciated. I mean, we played, I think it's so special to bring it when we were in Chile or Colombia, and some people had never experienced these instruments before. Or when you come to Australia or the US, where people have their heritage from maybe Sweden.
Right.
We played at a venue the other night, and just like by picking up the instruments, the organizers started like crying, and the sound engineer started crying during soundcheck because they had their heritage from Norway and Sweden, and they were like to see these instruments and hear these instruments. I think it's a very cool experience to see that in
Yeah.
people, both people that are connecting to their roots, but also people that are discovering something new.
Right.
Yeah, and also like when you are in Sweden, for example, and say that you play traditional folk music from Sweden, it's as soon as you mention folk music, they get a picture of how the music will sound,
Right.
like even before they have actually heard it. And I think that's the like most beautiful thing, would I say, when you're in Australia or Chile or Colombia, people don't really know what to expect. So it's just music, and either they appreciate it or
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
And that's like one of few times
Yeah.
that you actually can be blank as a paper,
Yeah.
and then you'll see what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In Sweden, you may be fighting against people's stereotypes, or
Yeah.
you
For
might
sure.
be fitting in just because they like,
Yeah.
they know that they like it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very different kind of challenge to be in a whole other country. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely understand that. Wonderful. So I guess another question about your process is, what other kinds of musical projects are you contemplating now that you're working together and you've had a couple of albums? Do you have any plans for anything new?
Contemplating?
Well, what are you thinking about for the future
For this
the group?
trio,
Yeah, for the
yeah?
trio. Yeah.
We're doing the different tours during this year, working on to apply for financial support
Yeah.
to that, and more tours next year, and I think what we do now, but more.
Mm-hmm.
Want to go back to the US next year, and I don't know if we will have time to record a new album next year, but maybe the year after that. And I don't know how that will sound. We'll see.
Right.
We also have been trying out a bit with like doing collaborations with singers.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were in Australia, we were recording with a musician that plays cello and sings, because I mean, at least in Sweden, I think, and also like in bigger pop genres, like usually when you hear strings on a pop song or something, it's usually very classical.
Right.
Like you can hear that it's a classical technique.
Right.
But there is also, I think, a lot of qualities in the folk tradition techniques. So it's very fun, at least the little bit we've tried to arrange strings for a singer. So we have been trying to do that, and it's something we have talked about would be fun to do a bit more. And yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see where we end up.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a fun collaboration as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So I often like to end these interviews by asking if there's something that I didn't bring up that you would like to tell our audiences. So
Oh,
No.
no.
I
don't think so, no.
You're awesome at
All
that.
right.
Very well
Thank you.
prepared.
Very covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well, in that case, I just want to thank once again the members of Northern Resonance JJ and Anna and Petrus,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
with us.
Thank you
Thank you for
And,
having us.
Yeah.
And I'll tell the audience that if you've seen this interview but you didn't know that there was also a concert on the Library of Congress website, look for that, obviously, because you want to hear these musicians play. So thank you very much.